The ballroom of the Grand Stone Hotel glittered with 1,000 points of light. Crystal chandeliers cast their glow over men in tailored tuxedos and women draped in designer gowns that cost more than most people earned in a year. This was the annual Pinnacle Business Summit Gala, where the wealthiest and most powerful figures in the corporate world gathered to celebrate their success, make deals, and remind each other of their importance. Maya Rodriguez moved through the crowd with practiced efficiency, her black service vest neat and her silver serving tray balanced perfectly in her hands. She had been working at the Grand Stone for 3 years now, ever since she dropped out of college to take care of her sick mother. The pay was decent enough, and the tips at events like this could be extraordinary, but she had learned long ago not to make eye contact with the guests unless absolutely necessary. To them, she was invisible, just another part of the machinery that made their glittering world run smoothly. She paused near a group of executives discussing mergers and stock prices, offering champagne from her tray. They took the glasses without acknowledgement, without even pausing in their conversation. Maya had grown used to it. She moved on, weaving between clusters of the wealthy and influential, her feet aching in the regulation black flats she wore for these long nights. At the far end of the ballroom, on a raised platform, a live band played soft jazz. Some couples danced, their movements elegant and rehearsed. Maya watched them for just a moment, remembering when she used to dance. Before her mother got sick, before the medical bills started piling up, before she had to abandon her dreams of becoming a dancer and choreographer. She had been good, really good. Her instructors at the university had said she had natural talent, that she could make it professionally if she worked hard enough. But life had other plans. Maya's love for dance had started when she was just 5 years old. Her mother had taken her to see a performance of the Nutcracker, and Maya had been mesmerized. She had sat in the balcony of the old theater, her small hands gripping the railing, watching the dancers move across the stage like they were defying gravity itself. From that moment on, she had known what she wanted to do with her life. Her mother, a seamstress who worked long hours to support them after Maya's father left, had scraped together enough money for dance lessons at the local community center. Maya had practiced until her feet bled, had spent every spare moment in the studio, had lived and breathed dance with an intensity that worried her teachers almost as much as it impressed them. She pushed the memories aside and headed back toward the kitchen to refill her tray. That was when she heard the commotion near the center of the ballroom. A crowd was gathering, and she could hear raised voices and laughter. Maya tried to ignore it and continue with her work, but her supervisor caught her eye and gestured for her to investigate. Sometimes guests needed assistance, and the servers were expected to handle minor issues before bothering the management. As she approached the crowd, Maya realized they had formed a circle around someone. She heard a voice, deep and confident, cutting through the chatter. When she pushed through to see what was happening, she found herself looking at Marcus Blackwell, the youngest self-made billionaire in the country. His face was familiar from magazine covers and business news segments. At 35, he had built a technology empire from nothing, and his company, Blackwell Industries, was valued at over $20 billion. He stood in the center of the circle, his arms crossed, a slight smirk on his handsome face. Next to him stood a young woman in a stunning red gown. Her face flushed with embarrassment or anger. Maya could not tell which. Marcus was speaking, his voice carrying easily across the ballroom. "I am a man who believes in putting money where my mouth is. Entertainment is entertainment, and I am willing to pay for quality. So here is my offer, and I will make it to anyone in this room. $10,000, cash, right now, to anyone who will get up on that stage and dance for us. Real dancing, not the boring ballroom stuff. Something with passion, with energy. Show me you have got fire in your soul, and the money is yours. The crowd laughed and murmured. Some people looked intrigued, others dismissive. The woman in the red dress said something sharp to Marcus that Maya could not quite hear, then turned and walked away, her heels clicking angrily on the marble floor. Marcus just smiled, seeming entirely unconcerned. $10,000, he repeated, raising his voice. That is my standing offer.
Who here has the courage to earn it? Maya felt her heart skip a beat. $10,000. That would cover 2 months of her mother's medication, with enough left over to catch up on some of the bills she had been juggling. She could finally fix the leak in the roof of their small apartment. She could buy her mother the comfortable chair the doctor had recommended. She could maybe even afford to take a day off without worrying about losing her job. $10,000 would change everything, at least for a little while. But she could not possibly do it. She was working. She was wearing her uniform. She was invisible. People like Marcus Blackwell did not even see people like her, let alone expect them to step forward and claim such an offer. Besides, she had not danced, really danced, in almost 3 years. What if she had lost it? What if her body did not remember how to move the way it once had? What if she humiliated herself in front of all these people? She started to turn away, to go back to work, to forget she had even heard. But then Marcus's eyes swept across the crowd and landed on her. For just a moment, their gazes locked. His expression shifted, just slightly, as if he was actually seeing her, not just looking through her. He raised an eyebrow, almost like a challenge. Maya felt something shift inside her. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the memory of who she used to be before life had ground her down into this invisible, exhausted version of herself. Maybe it was thinking about her mother at home, in the apartment that was too small and too cold in the winter and too hot in the summer, hooked up to machines that beeped and wheezed through the night. She thought of her mother's face when Maya had told her they could not afford the newer medication the doctor had recommended. She thought of the dreams she had abandoned. She thought of $10,000. Before she could talk herself out of it, Maya raised her hand. The crowd turned to look at her, and she felt hundreds of eyes focus on her all at once. The weight of their attention was almost physical. She saw surprise, curiosity, and in some faces, disdain. "A waitress?" she heard someone whisper. "This should be interesting." Someone else snickered. Another voice said, "Marcus, are you really going to let the help participate in your little game?" Marcus's smile widened. He gestured toward her. "Step forward. Do not be shy." "What is your name?" "Maya," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Maya Rodriguez." "Well, Maya Rodriguez, are you accepting my challenge?" She nodded. "Yes, I will dance for $10,000. The crowd parted as she walked toward the stage. Her hands were trembling, but she kept them steady by her sides. She could feel her supervisor's horrified stare from across the room. She was almost certainly going to be fired for this. But $10,000. $10,000 could change everything. Marcus walked alongside her toward the stage, his expression amused. "I have to warn you, I have very high standards. If you just shuffle around up there, you are not getting a dime. I want to see real talent, real passion. Show me something that moves me, and the money is yours." Maya climbed the steps to the stage, her legs feeling like they might give out at any moment. The band had stopped playing, and the dancers had cleared the floor. Everyone in the ballroom was watching her now. She stood in the center of the stage, suddenly very aware of her plain uniform, her practical shoes, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked nothing like the girl who had once commanded stages at the Pacific Arts Conservatory. She looked exactly like what she was, a tired woman who worked 3 jobs to keep her mother alive. Marcus stood at the edge of the stage, his arms still crossed. "Well, I am waiting." Maya closed her eyes for a moment. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. In that moment of darkness behind her closed eyelids, she thought about the first time she had ever performed on stage. She had been 7 years old, at a recital at the community center. She had worn a costume her mother had stayed up all night sewing, pale pink with sequins that caught the light. She had been so nervous she thought she might faint. But then the music had started, and everything else had fallen away. There had been only the music and her body and the pure joy of movement. She opened her eyes and looked directly at Marcus Blackwell. "I need the band to play something," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "Any requests?" "Do they know anything by Piazzolla?" The band leader, looking confused but game, nodded. "We can play Libertango." "Perfect," Maya said. "Play that." The music began, that urgent, sensual tango rhythm that seemed to pulse with life itself. Maya kicked off her practical shoes, standing barefoot on the polished stage.
The cold of the floor against her feet was grounding, real. Then, without any further hesitation, she began to dance. She did not think about the crowd. She did not think about Marcus Blackwell or his money or the consequences that would surely come from this moment of madness. She thought only about the music, about the way it moved through her body like electricity. She thought about all the years of training, all the early mornings in the studio when her mother had driven her across town before dawn so she could practice before school. All the times she had danced until her feet bled because it was the only thing that made her feel truly alive. All the dreams she had carried and then buried. Maya danced like she was on fire. Her movements were sharp and precise, then flowing and lyrical, then explosive and powerful. She used every inch of the stage, spinning and leaping and dropping low to the ground before rising again in one smooth motion. The tango was a dance of passion and conflict, of desire and resistance, and she embodied every note of it. She danced her frustration, her exhaustion, her desperation. She danced her love for her mother, her grief for her lost dreams, her rage at a world that had tried to make her small and invisible. She danced the memory of her father leaving when she was 8, walking out the door and never looking back. She danced the night her mother had collapsed at work and Maya had found her on the floor of the seamstress shop, barely breathing. She danced every sacrifice, every compromise, every moment she had swallowed her pride and her pain to survive. The ballroom had gone completely silent except for the music. Maya was only vaguely aware of it, lost in the dance, lost in the moment. Her body remembered everything, every technique, every movement, every way to make emotion visible through motion. When she did a particularly difficult turn sequence, something her old choreographer had taught her, she heard gasps from the audience. When she executed a series of sharp, staccato movements perfectly timed to the music, someone applauded. But she did not stop, did not acknowledge them. She danced like she was alone in her old studio, like no one was watching, like nothing mattered except the music and the movement. The song built to its climax, and Maya built with it, her movements becoming bigger, more dramatic, more intense. She could feel sweat on her skin, could feel her heart pounding in her chest, could feel every muscle in her body working together in perfect harmony. And then, on the final note, She froze in a perfect pose, her arms extended, her head thrown back, her chest heaving as she struggled to catch her breath. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then the ballroom erupted. People were applauding, some were cheering, some were on their feet. Maya stood on the stage, suddenly aware again of where she was and what she had just done. Her face flushed hot with embarrassment and adrenaline. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. She felt exposed, vulnerable, like she had just stripped herself bare in front of hundreds of strangers. She looked for Marcus Blackwell and found him still standing at the edge of the stage. But his expression had changed completely. The amused smirk was gone. He was staring at her with an intensity that made her want to look away, but she forced herself to hold his gaze. He walked slowly up the steps and onto the stage, moving toward her until he was standing just a few feet away. "That," he said quietly, his voice carrying just to her despite the noise of the crowd, "was extraordinary." Maya did not know what to say. She felt like she had just revealed her soul, like everyone in the room could see inside her now. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the heat of the moment. Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. He tapped on it a few times, then looked back at her. "What is your account information?" Maya blanked, confused. "My what?" "Your bank account, for the money, or do you prefer a check?" "Actually, a check would take too long. Give me your information and I will wire you the $10,000 right now." She stared at him, still trying to catch her breath. "You are really going to pay me?" His expression was unreadable. "I said I would pay for quality, and you delivered. More than delivered. That was worth every penny and more. Now, give me your information." Maya recited her account details, her voice shaking slightly. She watched as Marcus entered the information into his phone. A moment later, her own phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw the notification. $10,000 had been deposited into her account. She nearly dropped the phone. It was real. The money was real. She had actually done it. "Thank you," she managed to whisper. "Thank you so much. You have no idea what this means to me." Marcus was studying her with that same intense expression. "Who trained you? Where did you study?" Maya hesitated. "I went to the Pacific Arts Conservatory, but I only completed 2 years before I had to drop out." "Why did you drop out?" "Personal reasons, family obligations." He nodded slowly. "And now you work as a server?" It was not a question, but Maya answered anyway. "Yes, I work here at the Grandstone. Or at least I did. I am pretty sure I am about to be fired for this." "No, you are not." She looked at him in surprise. "Excuse me? I own this hotel," Marcus said casually. "Actually, I own the whole Grandstone chain. You will not be fired. In fact, consider yourself promoted. I want you to report to my office tomorrow morning at 9. We need to talk." Maya felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. "I do not understand." "You do not need to understand right now. Just be there. Blackwell Industries, main headquarters, 52nd floor. Ask for me at the front desk. They will be expecting you." Before she could respond, before she could even process what was happening, Marcus turned and walked off the stage. The crowd was still applauding, still buzzing with excitement. Maya stood there in her bare feet, her uniform rumpled, $10,000 in her bank account, and absolutely no idea what had just happened to her life. Her supervisor appeared at the edge of the stage, looking like he did not know whether to be furious or terrified. "Maya, what on earth was that?"
Do you have any idea how inappropriate it is to make a spectacle of yourself while you are working? You are representing the Grandstone Hotel, and you just turned a prestigious corporate event into a circus. Before Maya could answer, another man in an expensive suit approached. He spoke quietly to her supervisor, showing him something on his phone. Her supervisor's face went pale, and he immediately turned back to Maya. His entire demeanor changed. "Miss Rodriguez, I apologize for my tone. Please, take the rest of the evening off. With pay, of course. And we will see you whenever you are ready to return to work. Take all the time you need." Maya nodded numbly and climbed down from the stage. She retrieved her shoes and walked out of the ballroom in a daze, feeling the eyes of hundreds of wealthy strangers following her every step.
She could hear them whispering, speculating about who she was and why Marcus Blackwell had singled her out. She took the bus home, still wearing her uniform, still trying to process what had happened. The city passed by outside the window in a blur of lights. Other passengers got on and off, living their normal lives, completely unaware that Maya's entire world had just shifted on its axis. She kept checking her phone, looking at the bank notification, making sure it was real. $10,000. It was more money than she had ever had at one time in her life. When she walked into the small apartment she shared with her mother, she found her sitting in her usual chair by the window, an oxygen tube in her nose, a book open on her lap. The apartment was shabby but clean, filled with second-hand furniture and the smell of the menthol ointment her mother used for her breathing. Medical equipment took up much of the living room, machines and tubes and monitors that had become as familiar as the furniture itself. Her mother looked up and smiled. "You are home, mija. How was work?" Maya crossed the room and knelt beside her mother's chair, taking her frail hand in both of hers. "Mama," she said, her voice breaking, "something happened tonight. Something incredible." She told her mother everything, the words tumbling out in a rush. The billionaire's challenge, the decision to dance, the $10,000 now sitting in their account, the mysterious summons to Blackwell Industries the next morning. Her mother listened with wide eyes, occasionally squeezing Maya's hand. When Maya described dancing, really dancing, for the first time in years, her mother's eyes filled with tears. When Maya finished, her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then she said softly, "I always knew you were meant for something more than serving drinks to rich people. You have such talent, such fire. I have always felt guilty that you had to give up your dreams to take care of me." "Mama, do not say that. I would not change anything. You are more important than any dream." Her mother shook her head. "Dreams are important, mija. They are what make us human. And maybe, just maybe, this is your chance to find your dream again. You danced tonight, really danced, like you used to. How did it feel?" Maya closed her eyes, remembering the moment, the music, the freedom. "It felt like coming home," she whispered. "It felt like finding a part of myself I thought was dead." "Then you must go tomorrow. You must see what this man wants. It could be nothing, or it could be everything. But you have to find out. What if it is just some joke? What if he is just playing with me?" Her mother squeezed her hand. "Then you will have $10,000 and the memory of dancing on that stage. That is already more than you had this morning. But I do not think it is a joke, mija. I saw that man on the news once. He does not seem like someone who plays games. He seems like someone who makes things happen." Maya spent the night lying awake, her mind racing. She kept checking her phone to make sure the money was really there, that she had not imagined the whole thing. But no, it was real. $10,000. She thought about what she could do with it. She made lists in her head.
Her mother's medication, the overdue electric bill, the rent they were behind on. Maybe even enough left over to buy herself one pair of shoes that did not hurt her feet. At 8 the next morning, she stood in front of her closet, trying to figure out what to wear to a meeting with a billionaire. She did not exactly have a wardrobe suitable for visiting corporate headquarters. Eventually, she settled on her only dress pants, a simple white blouse, and a blazer she had bought at a thrift store for her college interviews years ago. She looked professional enough, she hoped. At least, she looked like she was trying. The Blackwell Industries building was a gleaming tower of glass and steel in the heart of the financial district. Maya felt intimidated just walking through the enormous revolving doors. The lobby was all marble and modern art, with a waterfall feature cascading down one wall. People in expensive business attire strode purposefully across the space, all of them looking like they belonged there. Maya felt like an imposter, a fraud who would be exposed at any moment. She approached the reception desk, her heart pounding. "Hi, I have a 9 o'clock appointment with Marcus Blackwell." The receptionist, a polished woman in her 50s, looked at her computer screen and then smiled warmly. "Ah, yes, Miss Rodriguez, we have been expecting you. Please take the executive elevator to the 52nd floor. Mr. Blackwell's assistant will meet you there." The elevator was all mirrors and soft music. Maya watched her reflection as she rose higher and higher, trying to calm her nerves. What could Marcus Blackwell possibly want with her? Was this about the dancing? Was he going to offer her some kind of job? The thought seemed absurd. What kind of job would a technology billionaire have for a college dropout who waited tables? The elevator doors opened onto a reception area that was somehow even more intimidating than the lobby. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city sprawling out below. A woman in a sleek gray suit stood waiting, her expression professional but not unfriendly. "Ms. Rodriguez, I am Jennifer Chen, Mr. Blackwell's executive assistant. Please follow me." They walked down a hallway lined with modern art, abstract pieces that probably cost more than Maya would earn in her lifetime. Through open doors, she glimpsed conference rooms with long tables and people in expensive suits having serious conversations. Everything about this place screamed power and wealth and success. Jennifer led her through a set of double doors into an office that was bigger than Maya's entire apartment. Marcus Blackwell stood by the windows, his back to her, looking out over the city. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his dark hair slightly tousled in a way that probably cost a fortune to achieve. "Ms. Rodriguez is here," Jennifer announced, then quietly withdrew, closing the doors behind her. Marcus turned to face Maya, and she was struck again by how intense his gaze was. "Thank you for coming. Please, sit." He gestured to a seating area with leather couches that probably cost more than her car, back when she had owned a car. Maya sat carefully, her hands clasped in her lap. Marcus took the chair across from her, leaning back and studying her with that same unreadable expression he had worn the night before. "I am sure you are wondering why I asked you here," he said finally. "The thought had crossed my mind," Maya replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Tell me about your life, Maya. Tell me why you dropped out of one of the best arts conservatories in the country to serve drinks at charity galas." Maya felt a flash of defensiveness. "With all due respect, my personal life is not really any of your business." Marcus leaned forward. "You are right, it is not. But I am making it my business, because I saw something in you last night that I do not see very often. Talent, yes, but more than that. Fire, determination, the courage to take a risk when everything was on the line. Those are qualities I value, and I want to understand where they come from." Maya was silent for a moment, unsure how much to reveal. Finally, she said, My mother has advanced pulmonary fibrosis. The medical bills are crushing. Insurance only covers a fraction of what she needs. I had to drop out of school to work full-time to pay for her care and keep a roof over our heads. That is all there is to it. I did what I had to do. No other family? My father left when I was 8. It has just been my mother and me since then. And last night? Last night, I saw an opportunity to ease the burden for a little while. $10,000 buys time. Time for my mother. Time for me to figure out what comes next. Time to breathe. Marcus nodded slowly. What would you do if money was not a concern? If you could do anything, be anything, what would you choose? The question caught Maya off guard. No one had asked her that in years. She had stopped thinking about it, had trained herself not to want things she could not have. Wanting hurt too much when you knew it was impossible. But now, sitting in this impossible office with this impossible man, the question forced its way past her defenses. I would dance, she said simply. I would choreograph. I would create art that moves people, that makes them feel something real. I would open a studio where kids who could not afford fancy lessons could come and learn. I would prove that you do not have to be rich to have access to beauty, to art, to dreams. I would show young girls like I was that they can be something more than what the world expects from them. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes never leaving her face. Then he said, I have a proposition for you, Maya Rodriguez, and I want you to hear me out before you say no. Maya's heart rate picked up. Okay. My company is launching a new initiative. We have always focused on technology, on innovation in the digital space. But I have been thinking about expanding into other areas, specifically arts and culture. I want to create a foundation that supports emerging artists, that provides opportunities for talented people who might not otherwise have access to the resources they need. Not just dancers, but musicians, visual artists, writers. Anyone with talent and passion who needs a chance. That sounds wonderful, Maya said carefully, not sure where this was going. I want you to help me build it. I want you to be the face of it, the heart of it. I will provide the funding, the infrastructure, the business expertise. You provide the vision, the passion, the understanding of what artists actually need. We will create programs, scholarships, performance spaces. We will find the next generation of dancers, musicians, painters, writers, and we will give them the chance to thrive. Maya stared at him, her mind reeling. Are you offering me a job? I am offering you a partnership. You will be the director of the Blackwell Arts Initiative. You will have full creative control, a substantial salary, and a budget that will make your head spin. All I ask is that you bring the same fire you brought to that stage last night, that you pour your heart and soul into making this foundation something extraordinary. I do not have any experience running a foundation. I do not have a business degree. I dropped out of college. I am a waitress. And I am a college dropout who built a $20 billion company, Marcus said with a slight smile. I dropped out of MIT after 1 semester because I knew I could learn more by building something than by sitting in classrooms. Degrees do not matter. Passion matters. Vision matters. The ability to see what could be and make it real, that is what matters. I saw that in you last night. I saw someone who was not afraid to risk everything for something they believed in. Why? Maya asked bluntly. Why me? You could hire anyone. Someone with credentials, with connections, with experience in the nonprofit world. Someone who knows how to write grants and manage boards and all the things I have no idea about. Marcus stood and walked back to the windows, his hands in his pockets. Because last night, you reminded me of something I had forgotten. You danced like your life depended on it, like it was the only thing in the world that mattered. You were not performing for me or for the crowd. You were dancing for yourself, for the pure joy and pain and beauty of it. I have not seen that kind of authenticity in years. Everyone I meet wants something from me. They perform, they pretend, they play whatever role they think will get them ahead. They tell me what they think I want to hear. But you were real. And that is exactly what this foundation needs. Not another corporate drone following a business plan, a real artist who understands what art actually means.
Someone who has struggled, who has sacrificed, who knows what it is like to have a dream and lose it and fight to get it back. Maya felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. She blinked them back. What about my mother? I have to take care of her. I cannot just abandon her. Your mother will have the best medical care money can buy, Marcus said, turning back to face her. Full coverage, top specialists, whatever she needs. That is part of your compensation package. In fact, I already took the liberty of having my assistant research the best pulmonary specialists in the city. There is a doctor at University Hospital, Dr. Sarah Chen, who is doing groundbreaking work with pulmonary fibrosis. I can have your mother seen by her next week if you say yes. You focus on the foundation. Let me worry about the logistics. This is insane, Maya whispered. This does not happen in real life. Billionaires do not just hand out dream jobs to random waitresses they met once. I am not handing out anything, Marcus said firmly. I am making a business investment. I believe you can make this foundation something special, something that will enhance my company's reputation and make a real difference in the world. That is worth investing in. But make no mistake, Maya. If you take this job, I will expect results. I will expect you to work harder than you have ever worked in your life. I will expect brilliance, innovation, passion. Can you deliver that? Maya stood up, her legs shaking slightly. She thought about her mother at home, struggling to breathe. She thought about the dreams she had buried so deep she had almost convinced herself they were dead. She thought about the little girl she had been once, who had twirled around her living room in her mother's scarves, convinced she was going to change the world through dance. She thought about all the years of sacrifice, of exhaustion, of feeling like she was drowning. And she thought about the possibility, the impossible, terrifying, exhilarating possibility of something more. Yes, she said, her voice strong and clear. Yes, I can deliver that. Marcus extended his hand. Then, welcome to Blackwell Industries, Director Rodriguez. She shook his hand, and in that moment, everything changed. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Maya found herself thrust into a world she had never imagined. Marcus had his legal team draw up contracts, his HR department set up her benefits, his real estate people find her and her mother a new apartment near the best pulmonary specialist in the city. He had not been kidding about the medical care. Within days, her mother had appointments with Dr. Chen, who actually had time to listen, who offered treatments they had never been able to afford before, experimental therapies, new medications, a comprehensive care plan that gave them hope for the first time in years. The new apartment was in a building with an elevator, with windows that let in actual sunlight, with enough space for her mother to move around without bumping into medical equipment. Maya had cried the first night they spent there, overwhelmed by the simple luxury of not having to worry about whether they could afford next month's rent. But Marcus had been right about the work. Maya threw herself into the foundation with an intensity that surprised even her. She researched other arts foundations, studied their programs, identified gaps in the current landscape. She visited community centers and schools in underserved neighborhoods, talking to kids about their dreams and obstacles.
She reached out to former classmates and instructors from the conservatory, picking their brains about what had helped them and what barriers they had faced. She worked 16-hour days, fueled by coffee and adrenaline and the sheer impossibility of the opportunity she had been given. Marcus was demanding, just as he had promised. He questioned every decision, pushed back on ideas he thought were too safe or too conventional, demanded that she think bigger, bolder, more ambitious. In their first planning meeting, Maya had presented a proposal for a small scholarship program supporting 10 students per year. Marcus had looked at the presentation and then at her and said, "10? That is your vision? 10 kids? Think bigger, Maya. We have the resources to change hundreds of lives, thousands if we do this right. So go back and think bigger." She had been frustrated at first, even angry. She had worked for days on that proposal. But then she realized he was right. She had been thinking small, playing it safe, not daring to dream as big as she could. So she went back and thought bigger. She came back with a proposal for 50 scholarships, plus after-school programs in 20 schools, plus summer intensives, plus performance opportunities. Marcus had smiled and said, "Now you are getting it, but we can go even bigger. What about partnerships with professional companies? What about creating our own performance venue? What about international exchanges?" They argued, sometimes loudly, but she found she liked that. He treated her as an equal, as someone whose opinion mattered, not as a charity case he was indulging. He challenged her, pushed her, made her better. And slowly, the foundation began to take shape. They hired a small team, carefully selected people who shared Maya's passion and Marcus's drive. There was David Kim, a former nonprofit executive who knew everything about grants and fundraising. There was Lisa Martinez, a marketing genius who could tell a story that made people want to open their wallets. There was James Washington, a former professional dancer who became the education director, designing curricula that balanced technical training with creative expression. 3 months after that night at the gala, the Blackwell Arts Initiative held its official launch event. They had secured a beautiful historic theater for the announcement, and the guest list included major players in both the business and arts worlds. Maya stood backstage, her heart pounding just as hard as it had that night she had danced for $10,000. She was wearing a dress Marcus had insisted on buying for her, a simple but elegant navy blue sheath that made her feel like someone important. Her mother was in the audience, in a wheelchair, but breathing easier than she had in years, her eyes shining with pride. Maya had peeked through the curtain and seen her, sitting next to Jennifer Chen, Marcus's assistant, who had volunteered to make sure she was comfortable. Marcus found Maya in the wings, adjusting his tie. "You ready?" "No," Maya admitted. "I feel like I am going to throw up." He smiled. "Good. If you are not nervous, I would worry you did not care enough. You are going to be brilliant." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I have watched you work yourself half to death for the past 3 months. Because I have seen the programs you have developed, the partnerships you have built, the vision you have brought to life. This foundation is going to change lives, Maya. It is going to create opportunities for people who thought they had none. And it all started because you had the courage to step onto a stage and dance." They walked out onto the stage together, and Maya looked out at the audience. She saw artists and executives, donors and journalists, all waiting to hear what the Blackwell Arts Initiative would be. She took a deep breath and began to speak. She talked about the barriers that keep talented people from pursuing their dreams. She talked about her own story, about dropping out of school to care for her mother, about thinking she would never dance again. She talked about the transformative power of art, the way it can change lives and communities. She talked about the programs they were launching, the scholarships, the mentorship opportunities, the performance spaces they were creating. She spoke from her heart, with passion and conviction, and when she finished, the audience rose to their feet in applause. Backstage afterward, as they greeted guests and answered questions, Marcus leaned close and said quietly, "You know, I never did tell you why I really made that offer that night." Maya looked at him in surprise. "You said you believed in putting your money where your mouth is. Entertainment is entertainment." He shook his head slightly. "That was not the whole truth. I made that offer because I was bored. I was surrounded by people who were all the same, who cared about all the same things, who never surprised me. I wanted to see if anyone in that room had the courage to step outside their comfort zone, to risk looking foolish for a reward. I expected no one to take me up on it, or if they did, I expected mediocrity. I wanted to prove a point about how predictable and safe everyone had become. But then you raised your hand, and everything changed." Maya did not know what to say. Marcus continued, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "You were extraordinary that night, Maya. Not just your dancing, though that was remarkable, but your courage, your determination, the way you transformed yourself in an instant from invisible to unforgettable. I knew right then that you were someone special, someone worth knowing, someone worth investing in." "You barely knew me, Maya," protested. "You still barely know me. What if you had been wrong?" "I was not wrong," Marcus said simply. "And every day since then has proven that I was right to trust my instinct. You have exceeded every expectation I had, and my expectations were already high." A journalist approached them with questions, and the moment passed. But Maya found herself thinking about his words later that night, as she sat in her new apartment with her mother, who was breathing easier than she had in years thanks to the new treatments. "You look happy, Mija," her mother said. "Truly happy, like I have not seen you in so long." Maya smiled. "I am happy, Mama. I feel like I found myself again. Or maybe I found a version of myself I never knew existed. I am creating something that matters. I am helping people. And I am dancing again, not professionally yet, but I have been going to the studio after work. My body remembers. It all comes back. That man, your boss, he seems to believe in you very much." Maya thought about Marcus, about the intensity in his eyes, about the way he pushed her to be better, to think bigger. "He does," she said slowly, "and I think I am starting to believe in myself again too." Over the following months, the foundation flourished. They held auditions and selected their first class of scholarship recipients, 50 talented young people from backgrounds like Maya's who needed a chance. Maya personally interviewed each one, hearing their stories, seeing herself in their eyes. They opened their first community arts center in an underserved neighborhood, a beautiful space with dance studios and music rooms and visual arts workshops. They partnered with schools to bring dance and music programs to kids who had never had access before. Every day brought new challenges, new opportunities, new moments of triumph and frustration. Maya found herself working more closely with Marcus than she had anticipated. He was involved in every major decision, every strategic pivot, every significant event. They spent hours together in meetings, in planning sessions, sometimes working late into the night when a deadline loomed or a crisis emerged. She learned about his past, how he had grown up poor in a small town in the Midwest, how his single mother had worked 2 jobs to support him and his younger sister, how he had gotten into MIT on a full scholarship but had dropped out because he had an idea he could not stop thinking about. He had built his first company in a garage, literally, with money borrowed from friends and credit cards maxed out. That company had failed, and the second one too, but the third one, That was Blackwell Industries, and it had changed everything. She told him about her dreams, her fears, her hopes for what the foundation could become.
She told him about her father, who had left because he said he felt trapped, who sent a card on her birthday every year but never called. She told him about the dance recital when she was 12, when she had performed a solo she had choreographed herself and felt for the first time like she was exactly who she was meant to be. They understood each other, she realized. They both knew what it was like to want something so badly it hurt. They both knew about sacrifice and risk and the terror of putting everything on the line for a dream. They were sitting in his office late one evening, reviewing applications for the next scholarship cycle, when he suddenly put down the file he was reading and looked at her. "Dance with me." "What?" "Dance with me, right now. I want to see you dance again." "Marcus, I am wearing a business suit and heels, and there is no music." He pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and suddenly music filled the office. The same Piazzolla tango that had played the night they met. He stood and held out his hand. "Please." Maya hesitated for just a moment, then kicked off her heels and took his hand. He pulled her into the open space in his office, and she realized with surprise that he could actually dance. Not like a professional, but well enough to lead her through the basic steps of a tango. "Where did you learn this?" she asked as they moved across the floor. "I took lessons," he admitted. "After that night at the gala, I wanted to understand what I had seen. I wanted to know what it felt like to move like that. I have been taking classes 3 times a week for months now." "And what does it feel like?" "Like freedom," he said softly. "Like being alive in a way I had forgotten was possible. Like breaking out of the box I had built for myself without even realizing it." They danced together in his office, 52 floors above the city, and Maya felt something shift between them. This was not boss and employee anymore. This was not even friendship. This was something deeper, something that made her heart race and her breath catch. She was acutely aware of his hands on her waist, of the warmth of his body, of the way he was looking at her. The song ended, but Marcus did not let her go. They stood there, barely inches apart, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. "Maya," Marcus said, his voice rough, "I need to tell you something." She waited, her heart pounding. "That night at the gala, when I saw you dance, it changed something in me. I have spent years building an empire, making money, acquiring power. I have been so focused on success that I forgot what it felt like to be moved by something beautiful, something real. You reminded me. And every day since then, working with you, watching you pour your heart into this foundation, I have found myself feeling things I thought I had stopped being capable of feeling. Marcus," she whispered, "I know this is complicated. I know I am your employer, that there are power dynamics at play, that this could ruin everything we have built. But I have to be honest with you. I am falling for you, Maya. Actually, I think I have been falling for you since that first night. And I need to know if there is any possibility that you might feel the same way." Maya's mind was racing. This was impossible. This was inappropriate. This could jeopardize everything: her job, the foundation, her mother's medical care, all of it. The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to step back, to maintain professional boundaries, to protect what they had built together. But as she looked into Marcus's eyes, she realized she did not want to do the smart thing. She wanted to do the true thing. And the truth was that yes, she had feelings for him. She had been trying to ignore them, to bury them under work and professionalism and practicality.
But they were there, undeniable, growing stronger every day. "I feel it too," she admitted. "I have been trying not to, but I do." He cupped her face in his hands, his thumb brushing across her cheek. "Then what do we do about it?" "I do not know. This could ruin everything. Or it could be the beginning of something extraordinary." He kissed her then, soft and gentle at first, then deeper, with all the passion and intensity that seemed to define everything between them. Maya kissed him back, letting herself feel everything she had been holding back, letting herself want something for herself instead of just surviving day to day. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "We will figure this out," he said. "We will do it right. We will be transparent with HR, we will establish boundaries, we will make sure no one can accuse you of sleeping your way into this position. Because you earned this job, Maya. You earned every bit of it, and I will not let anyone take that away from you." Over the next year, they did exactly that. They navigated the complexity of a relationship between a CEO and an employee with careful attention to ethics and transparency. Marcus brought in an independent board to oversee the foundation, ensuring Maya had protections and that decisions were not made unilaterally by him. They kept their relationship private at first, not hiding it, but not broadcasting it either, letting Maya establish herself fully in her role before going public. When they did go public, there were some raised eyebrows and some whispered speculation, but the results spoke for themselves. The foundation was thriving under Maya's leadership, making a real difference in people's lives. The foundation continued to grow and evolve. They expanded to 3 more cities, then 5, then 10. They helped launch the careers of dozens of young artists who went on to professional success. They created programs that were being studied and replicated by other organizations around the world. Maya choreographed and performed in a major benefit concert, her first time on stage professionally in years, and it was everything she had dreamed it could be. The performance was reviewed in major newspapers, and one critic wrote that Maya Rodriguez danced with a depth of emotion that could only come from someone who had truly lived, who had known loss and pain, and had chosen beauty anyway. 2 years after that night at the gala, Marcus took Maya back to the Grandstone Hotel. They walked into the same ballroom where it had all begun, now empty and quiet for a private event he had arranged. The band was there, the same band that had played that night, ready to perform. But the glittering crowd was gone. It was just the two of them and the memories. "Do you remember?" Marcus asked softly. "How could I forget? I was terrified. I thought I was going to lose my job. I thought I was crazy for even considering it." "You changed my life that night," he said. "You reminded me that there are things more valuable than money or power. Beauty, passion, courage, connection. You." He got down on one knee, and Maya's breath caught in her throat. He pulled out a small box and opened it, revealing a ring that caught the light and sparkled like all the chandeliers that had hung above them that first night. "Maya Rodriguez, you took a chance on me when you accepted my challenge. You took another chance when you agreed to build this foundation with me. You took the biggest chance when you let yourself love me despite all the reasons it could have gone wrong. Will you take one more chance? Will you marry me?" Maya looked down at this man who had seen her when she was invisible, who had believed in her when she had stopped believing in herself, who had helped her rediscover her dreams, and then given her the means to achieve them. She thought about the journey that had brought them here, from that moment of desperation and courage to this moment of joy and possibility. "Yes," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, of course, yes. He stood and slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her close and kissed her. Around them, the empty ballroom seemed to echo with the ghost of music, with the memory of the night a humble waitress had done what no one expected and changed both their lives forever. The wedding was small and intimate, just close friends and family. Maya's mother was there, healthier than she had been in years, her pulmonary fibrosis in remission thanks to the experimental treatments Dr. Chen had put her on. She cried happy tears as she watched her daughter marry the man who had given them both a second chance at life. Marcus's parents flew in from across the country, and Maya found them warm and welcoming, proud of their son, not just for his business success, but for the foundation he had built, and the woman he had chosen to build it with. His younger sister, Elena, was the maid of honor, and she whispered to Maya during the reception that she had never seen her brother so happy, so truly alive. The Blackwell Arts Initiative continued to thrive under Maya's leadership. 5 years after its founding, it was operating in 15 cities across the country and had helped over 1,000 artists launch their careers. They had built 3 dedicated performance venues, created partnerships with major arts organizations, established a fellowship program for emerging choreographers, and funded countless community programs that brought arts education to underserved neighborhoods. Maya herself continued to dance and choreograph, balancing her administrative work with her creative passions. She finally opened the community dance studio she had always dreamed of. A beautiful space in the neighborhood where she had grown up, offering free classes to kids from low-income families, giving them the opportunities she had almost lost forever. Marcus stepped back from day-to-day operations at Blackwell Industries to focus more on philanthropic work alongside Maya. Together, they became one of the most effective power couples in the charitable world, using their combined resources and influence to create opportunities for people who had been overlooked, underestimated, or forgotten by society. They started other initiatives too, focusing on education and healthcare access, always with the same philosophy that talent and potential exist everywhere, but opportunity does not. But sometimes, late at night, when they were alone in their home, Maya would think back to that moment when she raised her hand in a crowded ballroom. She thought about how close she had come to not doing it, to staying invisible, to letting fear and doubt keep her small. She thought about the courage it had taken to step onto that stage, to dance her heart out in front of hundreds of strangers, to risk everything for a chance at something better. And she was grateful every single day that she had found that courage, because it had not just changed her life, it had revealed who she truly was, who she had always been underneath the exhaustion and the struggle and the daily grind of survival. She was Maya Rodriguez, dancer, choreographer, visionary, wife, advocate. She was someone who took chances, someone who danced with fire in her soul, someone who had learned that the most extraordinary things can happen when you have the courage to step into the light. Years later, when young artists would come to her for advice, when scholarship recipients would seek her guidance, she would always tell them the same thing: take the chance. When opportunity presents itself, even if you are terrified, even if you think you are not ready, even if it seems impossible, take the chance. Dance like your life depends on it. Because sometimes it does. And sometimes a single moment of courage can transform everything, can open doors you did not even know existed, can lead you to a life you never dared to imagine. The humble waitress had danced for $10,000 and discovered she was worth so much more. Not in money, though that had come, but in purpose, in passion, in love, in the knowledge that she had the power to create beauty in the world and to help others do the same. She had learned that sometimes the people who seem to have the least to offer are actually carrying the most precious gifts. That talent exists everywhere, in every economic class, in every neighborhood, waiting for someone to see it and give it a chance to bloom. That one person believing in you can change everything, but ultimately, you have to believe in yourself enough to take the risk. Maya kept dancing, kept creating, kept building programs that changed lives. And every time she stepped onto a stage, every time she felt the music move through her body, she remembered that night at the Grandstone Hotel. She remembered the fear and the adrenaline and the pure joy of movement. She remembered Marcus's face as he watched her, the way his expression had changed from amusement to awe. She remembered the moment her phone had buzzed with that $10,000 notification and the impossible journey that had followed. And she knew with absolute certainty that taking that chance, raising her hand in that moment of desperate courage, had been the best decision she had ever made. It had saved her life, yes, but more than that, it had given her back herself. The girl who had once danced in her living room, dreaming of changing the world, had found her way home, and she was finally, truly dancing free.